evening and welcome to this week's edition of Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta. And as we wrap up our winter season of programs, we're going to highlight the wrestling program. So please join me after the break where I'll be joined by head wrestling coach Dwayne Ritter.
Know what?
What?
Since I got adopted, I've learned a lot about these humans.
I know. I mean, check out these two. It's Flirt City over here.
Yeah, I noticed that. It looks like my human is definitely into your human.
Oh, look! I think she's getting his number.
Nice.
Your human's got some sweet moves.
Takes after his dog. Oh, look, they're doing that thing where they put their arms around each other.
She kicked up a leg. It's like in the movies.
That's awesome. Looks like we're going to be hanging out a little bit more.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is head wrestling coach Dwayne Ritter. Welcome to the show, Dwayne.
Well, thanks, Jeff.
How are things going?
Good.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty good season so far.
Yeah, now we're, by the time this all airs out and the show is up on YouTube, certainly we're done with our regular season, whatever, our dual meet schedule. We had quite a few tournaments this year. And why don't you talk a little bit about how the season, overall you went, and maybe we can highlight some of those wrestlers who really stood out for us.
Okay, overall, pretty successful season. We wrestled a tough schedule. We finished with a winning season. Had a final win there against RIT, some good wins over some quality schools. Elizabethtown, Williams, some good competitive schools. Really did well after January. We came back, had a real good run. Only lost 2 in the second semester. So, it was a pretty good season overall in duels, and tough to balance out. You got the individual component with wrestling as well as the duels and trying to get the best out of both. But we did well. We'd like to have won a couple more, which I think we could have. We had a lot of matches too where we had guys out with injury, and it just kind of changes our lineup. So it's hard until you look at it and see the outcome. You take one guy out of that 10-man rotation, and it really does sometimes determine the duel. So I thought, probably 2 of the nationally ranked teams we could have, if we had everyone in the lineup, maybe pulled out wins maybe against a couple of them. But for the most part, very good performance with the guys we had and trying to keep the lineup healthy. The big goal is now trying to refocus and get them ready for the regionals and hopefully get everyone healthy for a shot maybe at the NCAAs.
Right. Now, throughout the season, like you said, we might go to a quad. We can, wrestle 3 or 4 teams in one day, and you kind of juggle the lineup a little bit. But I think if you followed us all year long and you looked at our lineup anyway, I think you saw some familiar names that were always there. The Mikaks, the Grafs, the Gillens, the Obzuds. How do those guys solidify our lineup, during the season?
Very good, and as I said too, we unfortunately had a few matches where if you lose one of those big starters, it's a real impact, 6 to 12 point difference in the team score just on one guy being out of the 10-man rotation. So, as we look down the lineup, I think a number of those guys you just mentioned hopefully have a shot, we get healthy and get through the regions. I think though, pretty much all those guys should have a shot of being at least seated in the top 6 of the Northeast region going in. And the way it works, if they can get into the top 3 on the podium, it's an automatic bid. So that's what we're shooting for. We're training hard right now this week and trying to get the guys ready for that. Pretty much when you look at it too, one of the things we say is the whole season's a practice up for this, the opportunity, to get that bid for the NCAAs. So, sometimes you hold guys back if they're not quite healthy or, not risking the injury during the season, and sometimes that may mean not as many points in the tournament or in the dual meets, but again, the idea is hopefully you get them there for a shot for that berth at the NCAA championships, because it's kind of the culmination of the sport. And Mikak, Graf, both hit 100 wins this year, which is great, and a big achievement. They become, I think Danny was the 6th now, so the 5th and 6th wrestlers ever to hit that mark. Which is a pretty good achievement. You have Gillen, who was an NCAA qualifier as a freshman last year, had a great season. Obzud, he's up there, top 5 the last 2 years with pins. He's a big pinner and dangerous to anyone. He'll be right in the mix, I think, too.
Right. Now the season is long. You guys start working out in October, like early October, really. And here we are, we're almost in March, and we're getting just to that point where guys are going to attempt to qualify for the NCAA championships. What kind of a process is it for them as they try to early season conditioning, middle season, now we're trying to push for the get to nationals? How do you balance kind of those 3 parts of the season to get them keep them healthy and
yeah, it's always a challenge, and every athlete's different too. You know, there's some guys that naturally call them a workhorse in the room, and they can go and they can do. You know, when I look at past guys like Dustin Wynn, that was and he could wrestle 40, 45, 50 matches, you know, and just keep going, keep going. And there's some other guys too that, you know, you'd say is a little more fragile. They might be great wrestlers, but a little more susceptible to injuries, even given their style and things like that. So sometimes, depending on the individual, you got to taper the training and work with them. And again, some guys can just wrestle more matches. Some guys need a little bit more breaks, and it's really kind of a challenge every year, just trying to balance the best of that and, you know, get them, you know, ready for the end. You know, and obviously, you know, along the way, guys want to win the individual tournaments, and they want to win the dual meets too. So, you know, sometimes it's that, you know, is he really ready? Should we put him in this week? Should we try and hold him out, you know, and get him healthy for the next week? So it's a lot of fine-tuning and balancing, and also just trying to keep a little bit of motivation, because, you know, with the weight loss, the intensive training, it doesn't take much to just kind of fall out of that routine and, you know, take a few days off or a week with an injury. Then you're starting to climb that ladder again, you know. So sometimes there's setbacks along the way too, where a guy's doing really good, then a little injury or just something doesn't go right, and you kind of step back and you got to refocus and redirect them. So.
Now, with the NCAA years ago, I don't, you know, maybe you can tell me how many years ago they came up with the standards for, you know, weight class, you know, to the hydration tests and all that kind of stuff. Do you feel that during that time period it's helped with how the guys prepare for wrestling? I mean, you know, a lot of guys used to cut a lot of weight just so that they could, you know, maybe go throw somebody around at 133 instead of 149, you know what I mean? So do you think that that has actually really helped guys stay healthier and maybe, you know, not suffer so many injuries because they're trying to cut so much weight?
Yeah, I think, you know, the whole weight loss thing is a big debate in the sport for many years. When I was competing at Division I's back in '97, when unfortunately 3 athletes actually died losing weight. And a lot of things went into that. We used to weigh in a day before, so, you know, you could literally drop 20 pounds the day of weigh-ins. You know, anything went, rubber suits, saunas, everything, just to make the weight, and then you wrestled the next day. Of course, the NCAA really stepped in and made a very strong system, you know, to the 100 certifications, hydration. So guys aren't cutting nearly the weight that they did, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know, it's a little bit better system. I think that helps on the injury rates. But still, there's wrestlers out there cutting, you know, weight. It is still a commitment, you know, even if they're dropping, you know, maybe not 50 pounds like they did years ago, but trying to manage 20 pounds within a season and do that the best way. And again, they deal with it different, you know, if they can maintain, you know, a healthy weight around their weight, you know, it's not too bad if they can stay within 5 pounds of their target weight through the season. That's kind of something we try and encourage the guys to, you know, really stay there. Even Christmas, Thanksgiving, of course, the holidays fall through. You know, watch how much you're eating. Don't blow your weight up, because then you're gonna have to lose it all the next week to get down, you know. So, but the new system is really regulated, so every time they weigh in, they're really restricted in what they can lose to the next weigh-in. So, I know it's still a challenge, but I think better overall as far as what's going into it. You know, head-to-head weigh-ins really changed it too. So it's not to a guy's advantage to really dehydrate or lose all that weight. They're going to perform worse that day of. So
do you think that maybe wrestlers are wrestling at their more ideal weight overall? I mean, you know, you said there are some guys that still will, you know, take off the 10 pounds so that they can, you know, be at a different weight class, you know, if they want to. But do you find maybe in Division III, you know, Division I, I mean, it's a whole different animal, I'm thinking. But in Division III, do you think guys are more in tune to, hey, I think this is where I belong?
Definitely. When we go to the state championships, and you can see the D1 guys, you know, they may get pitched a little lower and a little more too, because, you know, the scholarships are over their heads. So we've seen that, heard that in the past too. A lot of kids, you know, having been there's that pressure, you know. So if you were recruited to be this weight class, even if you're getting bigger, you've still got to maintain that weight class. And kids don't want to lose their scholarship, you know. So that puts a little more pressure and commitment over their head. I think Division III in general, there's a little bit more that, you know, they're here to be students, and you know, athletes is secondary. So also the weight loss impacts your performance from a class perspective as well. If you know you're not properly nutritioned, you're struggling in the classroom, tired, fatigued. So I think, you know, we do a much better job at Division III in general. I know here we'll be talking to Ben and Dan later, and they'll probably both, I advocated for both of them to actually move up in weight this year. Dan actually 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
And they're both doing well
Very
with that
well,
adjustment.
yeah.
I think they've enjoyed not pulling off as much weight. So like I said, that's sometimes good. So it's not necessarily a disadvantage to go up a weight class either if you're doing it the right way.
We always have to talk about, a big part of our wrestling program here is always the community service and the community involvement that we have with all of our wrestlers. You guys embrace it, and over the years you've done so many incredible things for a lot of people that have helped. In particular, the pit run. I mean, it's got to be going on nearly quarter of a century now, right? 25 years of involvement.
Yes.
How did that go this year? And what are the totals up to now? I mean, we're up to tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, over the many years we've been, the last almost 10 years we've contributed almost $2 to $3 grand every year. I think this year had a little smaller team, but we still were about $2,200 that we contributed to the race on race day. So again, still a great commitment to the local charities and the Pit Run Foundation.
Right.
It's always a good experience for the guys too to get down there. Challenging run, good involvement with the community, and again, a great opportunity to give back.
Right. How much do they, I mean, I know that some of them, I've never run a 10K or been over that hill that they have to climb. I mean, how is that posed to them when they get here? Like, I'm a freshman, I might be a heavyweight, and I'm like, you're going to ask me to run 6.2 miles? I mean, how does that all work out? I mean, do the older guys kind of take these guys aside?
Yeah, I think it's something that's been just ingrained into our culture, so the team embraces it. We're supportive. The banner hangs in my office, so they know, hey, this is the race.
Right.
Get ready for it. And it varies too, depending where their background's from. Some of the guys from Long Island are used to running flat miles instead of straight up the back of Bugby, but that changes things too. And typically a lot of wrestlers, do run, but it might be, 2-3 miles. It's usually not a 6+ mile with a big incline, just because of the training regimens. And once in a while we'll get a cross-country runner, that does very well. Guys that have competed in cross-country as well. But a lot of them aren't, distance runners per se. So for a lot of them, it's their first experience really running a race that far. But they tend to do pretty well with it. Like I said, it's a little different team dynamics every year, but I know this year they really enjoyed it as a team. A bunch of them stuck together as a group, and we're happy. They were singing coming across the finish line, so it's a good.
Yeah, I have to imagine
sign.
it's got to be a great, because early in the season, it's just an activity that they can all kind of, bond with a little bit, and maybe start to create a little positive, reinforcement for each other.
Yeah, it's just a great experience all the way around. Like I said, involving them with the community, a little bit of training in there, and just camaraderie right at the beginning. So that too, in September they got to be doing something. So they've got to be running and lifting, even though we're not really in season. The guys still have to be working out, or when October hits, they're going to be behind.
Yeah. Well, listen, we want to thank you for coming by tonight. We want to wish you the best of luck during, we call this championship season with guys trying to get to nationals. We hope we can get 4 guys, maybe 5. And certainly we wish you the best of luck and good health for all your wrestlers. Thanks for coming by. I'd like to thank head wrestling coach Dwayne Ritter for coming by tonight. And after the break, I'll be joined by 2 senior captains, Ben McCack and Dan Graff.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Joining me now in the studio is senior captains of the wrestling team, Ben McCack and Dan Graff. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Glad to be back.
You guys are like 3 years. This is your 3rd year. It's your 2nd year, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you just let everybody know again where you're from and what you're majoring in here?
I'm Ben, senior, wrestling 141 pounds this year. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and I'm majoring in criminal justice and political science.
I'm a senior, Dan Graff. I'm wrestling 174. I'm from LaGrangeville, New York, and I'm majoring in psychology.
Now, certainly, as we look back on your careers, we've watched you guys come along every year, and every year you guys, get a little better. You're always strong. The 2 of you actually this year eclipsed 100 collegiate wins, which is pretty hard to do at any level, no matter what. I mean, how did that feel for you guys to be able to do that in the same year?
Well, we started together, so I mean, it was good to both get 100 wins our senior year. I was kind of, as I was going along, I was kind of hoping that I would get there, but I knew only 4 guys or so, I think Coach said. So it's nice to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I mean, the names are you know, I mean, the names are there. I mean, they're all qualifiers, and certainly. So did you think you were going to get there?
Honestly, before the season, I knew I was close. I had about, well, he was really close. I had about 19, 20 more wins. So, I mean, I knew it was going to be close. So, as soon as I got there, it was enjoyable for us, you know, both to get it in the same season.
Right. Now, of course, now you moved up one weight class, and as Coach mentioned earlier on the show, you actually bumped 2 weight classes. What was that like for you, where the coach is now sitting you down and saying, you know, I want you to go 74 this year? I mean.
Well, I mean, I wrestled 57 for the past 2 years, and you know, last year was a bit of a cut. So I definitely decided I wasn't going to go 57. But I mean, we had a little dispute at the beginning of the year with 65, and you know, it was decided I was going to be the one to bump up to 74. So, I mean, there were some changes I had to make, and I was a little uncertain how I would perform, but you know, it all worked out.
Right. I mean, you know, early in the season, it looked like you were just trying to get your, you know, get your feet wet a little bit at that new weight class. You know, wrestling heavier guys. Maybe.
Definitely.
I mean, your early season results might not show, but certainly, you know, since January's turned, I mean, you've been right there. I mean, you've been banging out the wins. I mean, do you think that was, is that the case? You had to kind of get used to it a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I bumped up from freshman year, just one weight class, that was a big difference. So bumping up 2 was definitely a big difference of styles and strengths, and you know, I just had to adjust. It takes a little bit of time.
Right. Now, did you like getting a little bit bigger, maybe a little stronger, use some of that strength?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, it's, you know, definitely the weight cutting, you know, it plays a hard role on you, and it makes you, you know, susceptible to injuries, and sometimes your technique's off. So I mean, I really don't have to worry about any of that with just eating whatever I want, and going out there and having fun. Right.
Now, what kind of an adjustment was it for you for bumping up one weight class?
I was used to wrestling 133 for 3 years, so moving up, I was confident, but I was still a little unsure because I had been, you know, at a different weight class for years. But it turned out that it wasn't a big difference. I mean, some guys are a little bit taller, but nothing major.
Right. Now, wrestling style. I mean, do you have a specific style, you know, that you?
I kind of all around have kind of been the same. Definitely just working on getting better in certain areas. Definitely.
Right.
Getting better on top, and I would say I like to wrestle on the feet, but it just depends who you're wrestling, I guess.
Right. Now, do you think that wrestling at a lower weight classes for you guys, some of the skills that you know, picked up, when, you know, like some quickness or maybe some moves, have you been able to transfer those to the kind of the bigger weight classes?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you probably speak more moving up too.
I mean, being at 49, lower weight class, and being up at 74 now, you know, I may not have some of the strengths that they have, but definitely the quickness from 49 to 57.
Right. Now, as we went through the season this year, I mean, certainly you guys are, you know, all conference wrestlers, you know, all state through your career, 100 wins. When you came here as freshmen, you know, from then into now, I mean, what kind of differences do you see in yourself?
Well, I would have to say that when you get here, you're just 17, 18 years old, you're just trying to learn everything you can, and you're still trying to do that, but I see myself now passing on a lot of knowledge to younger guys, knowing that I got about a few weeks, nationals and everything.
Right.
Hoping so. I've got a few more weeks left of my season, so.
Right. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, coming in, definitely learned a lot from the older guys, and, you know, didn't really know a lot about college wrestling, and then now I find myself, you know, both of us, you know, being that older guy, teaching the guys in the room, and getting ready to, you know, nationals.
Right. Now, how important is it for you guys? I mean, you know, you've been captains multiple years for our program. I mean, so you've been really leaders along, even as underclassmen, people would say. Was that something that you grew into, something you embraced? I mean, were you looking forward to it? Did you ever think that you maybe be a captain of the wrestling team during your time?
Well, I would say we thought down the road, putting the time in that eventually, yeah. But we were named captains our sophomore year, so that was a little bit of a surprise, kind of being put in that spot, but you got to fill the role.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Now, when you're in that position now, I mean, like you said, you're passing on knowledge to younger guys. I mean, is it all about wrestling? I mean, what other kinds of, is it some academic advice? I mean, you guys kind of work together with helping out in that area as well?
Yeah, it's definitely, wrestling's part of it, but also just being an athlete here at school and all the things that you deal with and stress and things like that you can see the younger guys go through, and you can definitely give them help with that.
Right. Now, what kind of involvement, do you have with some of the younger guys?
Well, I'd say like in the room, definitely showing technique that, maybe coach missed, or some things that guys haven't picked up on that they may be in a position in a match. But I'd say off than that, academically telling them like, where they should be at with their classes, tips and knowledge. And like he said before, the stress that they go through, we've definitely both been through. So we're a good mentor for them to, get through those problems.
Now, do you see yourself maybe as coaches someday?
Quite possible.
Maybe at the high school level, or?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I'm doing the coaching certification here, so finishing that up, so maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That certainly would be great. I mean, it's good. It's great when wrestlers or some of our seniors aspire to be coaches. They have so much to give. I mean, so much, especially for you guys, where you've been in such a leadership role for 3 years. You're kind of an extension of Coach Ritter, and you get to kind of get in there and keep guys motivated.
Right.
And are you guys vocal leaders? Lead by example?
I'd say we definitely both try to lead by example, but maybe sometimes it's one of us is more vocal than the other.
Right.
But
Our other captain, Frankie, too. He does a pretty good job.
He looks more like the vocal guy.
yeah,
he
he's
is.
a little more vocal.
But you got to, you know what I mean? You guys kind of work off each other.
Yeah, we work well together, I would say, definitely.
Now, it's a long season. I mean, you guys start out, October. You guys are just trying to get into it. I mean, of course, where you guys are used to it, maybe you're a little more in tune with it. But how do you keep yourself kind of motivated and going as you get into, late January when you just want to get to nationals? You know what I mean? So how do you guys do that? How do you keep yourself focused?
Well, I mean, over the years, it's definitely been difficult. You learn, though, that, there's a lot of aspects of the sport that will drain you, bring you down, and, pull your motivation away from you. But as seniors now, I think my biggest motivation is knowing that this is it. There's no other shot, and, you just got to go for it all.
Right. Has it been, now you can kind of reflect a little bit. I mean, you still have some weeks left. You're not done yet. Look back. What have you enjoyed most about SUNY Oneonta and our wrestling program?
Well, I'd have to say, I mean, every year is just a new journey, but I definitely met a lot of good people and built a lot of friendships, and I just have to say overall it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall a good experience. New guys coming in, new experiences with them, and just overall a good time.
Yeah. Do you think Division III was the right choice for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you have a chance to wrestle at higher levels? I mean, was anybody from like a Division II school or something maybe throwing, maybe some?
Considered.
Yeah.
Definitely considered it. I thought about staying local, going to University of Buffalo.
Okay.
That was one of my options, but I kind of thought D3 was where I wanted to be.
Right. So when you got here, certainly Division III has really been, it's been a great choice for both of you. I mean, certainly you're both two outstanding student athletes. I mean, that's the student part of it, and you've been, like I said, I mean, and part of our program, the community service. I mean, all the things that you guys have done, flood relief. I mean, what does that mean to you guys to be able to, do those kinds of things as well?
Well, it was something that's like, team building is great, and it was more than just like wrestling here. So you get a lot more out of it than just competing. There's more to it than just going to practice. There's a lot of extra things to do, which is, it's not time consuming, so you gotta budget your time, but still it's definitely good that Coach Ritter has us and pushes us to do those things.
Right. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, having those extra experiences really, made it more of an experience for us overall. It wasn't, just competing and training. You built a lot more, friendships and, a lot of learning experiences with the community service. So I enjoyed it.
Yep. Can you maybe pick out one particular highlight from your up to now during your career? Is there something you can maybe point out academically, athletically, campus?
Well, A lot of things, but this year, just wrestling-wise, I was proud that I won that conference tournament. That was something I always wanted to do. Finally, my senior year, I was able to do that.
What about you?
I mean, I guess I'd have to say, getting my 100th win.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a big goal of mine throughout college, and finally got there.
Well, we certainly, again, I mean, you got a few weeks left, and we certainly wish you the best of luck as you plan and train for those moments. Our region is a very large region. We go and we compete with the New England schools, which is, so we got about 18 teams in our region. Is that what it is? We're going to go to Wesleyan University, which is in Connecticut.
Right.
And Coach Ritter thinks you guys will be seated, probably in the top 6 in your weight classes. Now they take the top 3, automatically qualify. There's no. Do you like that now, where it's just a set number and not have to go through all that wild card stuff?
Yeah, it's a little less politics, with wild cards and voting and how you did in the year. Most people think maybe the top 3 is easier to qualify, but it's more teams. You have 18 teams now. Yeah. So.
Well, there's 18 guys in each bracket, really. I mean, So I mean, everybody enters somebody.
Right. The past was only about 8 teams.
Right.
So it's just a lot smaller tournament.
Right. I mean, wrestling is you come and you wrestle, and the guy that's the best on that day should go. I mean, the 3 best guys should go. Right. Instead of, like you said, I mean, if some guy comes in and says, well, my guy was 38-2 and your guy was, you know what I mean? So I think I do like the fact that now it's top 3, boom, that's it, no questions.
Yeah, overall, I think it added more wrestlers to the national bracket, I believe. So it gives, more guys opportunities to go, and also, say you take a loss in the first round, something happens, you still have a chance to take 3rd place, which is also, it's good.
Yeah, that's a good thing about wrestling too. I mean, you can come back through the consolation bracket and still get in that 3rd spot, which is how Sean Gillen got through last year. So I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, right?
Yeah.
Well, we certainly want to thank you guys for coming by, and again, we want to wish you the best of luck for these last few weeks, and hopefully you two, and along with some other guys, will be heading out to the Nationals out in Iowa. All right. Well, good luck, and thanks
for having us.
All right. We'd like to thank all the members of the wrestling team for coming by tonight, and certainly you'll be able to follow the Northeast Region Championships on the web at www.oneontaathletics.com, where there'll be linked to live results. And again, that wrestling tournament is going to take place at Wesleyan University in Connecticut in a couple of weeks. So we'd like to thank you for coming by tonight, and join us next time on Inside Red Dragon Sports.